this thing on?
We talking about practice, man.
I work with my hands. It's a misdemeanor in 27 states.
You gotta be comfortable with your co-host in this amount of space.
Yeah, I can see me and you.
This guy runs a state.
You get that through your head?
You just got hashtag content.
Technology and stuff.
Open your grill. It's stuck in your teeth.
Now I have to mark them so I don't get the lick mine.
You're not really that stupid, are you?
Quavos.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
We're gonna have a lot of editing this time.
The ceiling is the roof. Let's make it happen.
Running isn't all about time, but it is. I survived the Boilermaker, but just barely.
The first half of the MLB season is in the books. Which team has the best looks?
OG FOTS. OG. Toby Motyka going to join us to talk some Diamond Ball.
Plus, straight from the strip, we talk to Bro FOTS about UFC 213.
To be determined, episode 19, previously recorded from the studio in Mom's basement.
We is in here.
At Sports by Bond, Stephen Bond.
That's you.
With at Trabs Matt.
That's me.
Matt Traybold. At Scooty Minx. Episode 19, previously recorded from the studio in Mom's basement in upstate New York.
It's not just the city, baby. Not just to see your dad. Concrete jungle, what dreams are made of. There's more of the state, people. That's basically, that's at the center of what I'm trying to say right now.
I'm just going to let you go. Just let it flow.
Concrete jungle, where dreams are made of. I don't have the chops of Alicia Keys.
Well, hey, listen. Who does? Who does?
Yeah. Songstress of the highest order.
All right. What's ahead? Well, we're going to talk some Boilermaker. We're going to talk some MLB. We're going to talk some NBA. What are we going to determine today? There we go.
Yeah.
Was this the most entertaining first half of the MLB season maybe in the past decade?
I like that question.
Does the NBA Summer League actually tell us anything? And what went wrong for the UFC in Sin City? We'll try to figure those things out. Episode 19. Maddie, what's the word?
The word is Boilermaker. You mentioned it a second ago. It was a big part of your day, big part of your weekend, big part of your summer. And we're not talking about Purdue here.
Not talking about Purdue. Not talking about, yeah. I've been up since 4:30. I'm trying to just quantify this the best way I can. So the brain not working, there are going to be several mental mistakes in this episode. I'm just guaranteeing it ahead of time. I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I bet. Jeez.
4:30, not the typical call time for a sports guy. So rather early in the morning.
We're night shifters.
I had 2 cups of coffee before 5:30 hit, trying to wake myself up, rouse the body, and got to the start line about 7:15. Gun went off at 8. This is a 15K, so 9.3 miles in layman's terms. So not even a half. It's not even a half marathon. It feels like a half because of the terrain, because of the topography, if you will.
Hilly.
It's very hilly.
Oh.
It is very hilly. The 6th mile is basically all uphill. There's a couple little flat spots in that mile, but for the most part, for all intent and purposes, it's an uphill mile. This is a race that I've been involved with for the past 6 years. The first 2 years, I called the race for a former employer, and the past 4 years now, I've participated. And it is drastically different to participate in this thing than it is to work it.
Yeah,
I'd rather run it, even though it
Really?
is a pain in the butt. It's a tough course. It's a very tough course. It's a fun course to run. This was the 40th year of the Boilermaker. This thing dates back to 1978 in Utica. And for if you know anything about upstate New York, this is the summer event in Utica on the second Sunday in July. Always the second Sunday in July. It is one of the highlights of my summer, without a doubt. I don't do very many road races. I get a couple of 5Ks in here and there. I train for this race. This is my Super Bowl, if you will. As I said on social media, 51 weeks out of the year, I'm a beer leaguer. On the 52nd, the second Sunday in July, I'm back in the game.
In the training regiment,
Kinda.
I've seen it personally. It is something to behold that you do because he rented live bobcats to train with him because, as he says, the danger makes him run quicker.
I think you got that from a movie somewhere, but that's all right. It's a similar concept. It's a very similar concept.
Live bobcats.
It actually wasn't live bobcats.
They're killing machines.
It was geese. I was running from geese, mainly.
And, well, hey, because you deal with them in the air. They have legs on the ground sometimes.
That's true.
And something else that maybe not part of them anymore is also on the ground a lot of times.
Formerly of the goose.
Formerly.
So
Oh my
anyway,
gosh.
this is it's a great run. There are, I didn't get the official count. I should have. This is bad on me. 14,500 people registered for the race. It's it's sold out year after year after year, and that's just for the 15K. Another 4,000. Oh, I think it's 4,000. Maybe it's up to 5 now. I can't remember. Run the 5K, which goes off at 7. There's about 30 to 40 wheelchair competitors, and the top wheelchair competitors finish this race in about 35 minutes or so, so they're cruising. The top guys, the elite runners, finished this, I think this year was like, I want to say 43.
Jeez.
So they're running sub 5-minute miles. I mean, they are cooking. I couldn't run a sub 5-minute mile if it was just one. I couldn't do it, and I'd like to think I'm in decent shape. Obviously not in great shape because my pace was about an 8-minute mile this time.
Simmer down, you.
I'm very disappointed in my time. Very disappointed. I'll put that out there.
Hey, shush.
I know I shouldn't be, but I'm very disappointed. Did not get anywhere near what I thought I was going to. Hey, it just happens. I'll tell you this much. For 8.3 miles, I felt okay. I had some good... You feel like you get a groove at some point. You get up a hill, and the hill's obviously going to take some of the life out of you, take some wind out of your sails. The downhills are difficult for me because my legs are so short, and I'm a short guy, that the taller fellas and ladies can just sort of glide down the hill and almost like hop.
Big strides.
I'm taking a lot of steps because I don't want to go ass over tea kettle.
Wait. So I just need to go back a second. You knew the point where 8.3 miles hit?
Yes.
That's very accurate.
No. I got a new fancy little watch here that tells me roughly where I'm at. So I was at roughly 8.3 miles.
We thanking Steve Jobs for it?
We're
Apple
thanking
Watch?
Steve Jobs for it. I'm
Apple
part of the
Watch.
machine. Part of the machine.
Yeah. The Apple machine.
As you like to say. So I got to 8.3 miles, and it was at that moment where my legs decided they no longer wanted to work, that they were done. They had run what they thought was a sufficient race, and they weren't going to move any faster. And I think that last mile I got passed by about 75 people.
There wasn't enough danger.
No, I didn't have any danger. I did not have any danger. That was the problem. I knew there was a cold beer waiting for me at the finish, and I figured, hey, we'll just stroll our way there.
I should have given at Sports my mom as a BB gun. Just nip at the back of your knees.
She could have.
Nip at your legs.
I always
Your
look.
leg legs.
She's always very concerned. She goes with me every year to watch me run because it's like competing again. It's like playing hockey and lacrosse. So this is the one weekend I get to compete, as I said. Beer leaguer to major leaguer. Then as soon as I cross the finish line, it's right back to beer leaguer because I grab a cold beer. This is actually the first year I actually have had a beer. So it ends at a brewery. It ends at the FX Matt Brewery where they brew Saranac and whatnot. So great. It's a great post-race party. There are 40,000 people at this. And anytime there's like a good anniversary, anytime it's like a 0 or a 5 at the end of the race number, they obviously draw more. So 35, there was a huge crowd. 40, massive crowd.
That was today's,
Good
right?
numbers. This year's was the 40th.
Ooh,
so
Lord.
Fun race. Shout out to the guys that put that race together. Tim Reed, Jim Sestitis. They do a tremendous job with it. It has been a great tradition dating back to 1978. If you haven't had a chance to get out there, register for it. Get out there next year for the 41st. It'll be fun. You can sneak yourself around back, get yourself a cold beverage. It's fun. It's worth it. So, all right, let's jump into the real sports news. Enough about my not-so-lengthy athletic career. The question we're going to try to determine first, was this the most entertaining first half of the MLB season in the past decade? Well, we're at the All-Star break. And
good barometer, yeah.
You normally do it here. It's a little past halfway. We've played, 80 games now?
Yeah, but it's essentially because of this, the All-Star break, and a legitimate break happening. So
we looked back 10 years, exactly 10 years, to 2007, and names like Bonds, Biggio, Rodriguez, A-Rod, these guys still kicking the tires. And 2007 was maybe A-Rod's best year as a Yankee, statistically speaking, individually statistically speaking.
Led so many hitting categories.
Which... you look back at A-Rod's career and you can look at it in whatever light you want, but 07 was a pretty good year. And I would say it's a pretty good year for baseball because just the amount of Hall of Famers or guys that are at least on the ballot, that was a good year. As you mentioned and you pointed out to your credit, May, this is the end of their career. So they're just kicking the tires down the road. But that was a season maybe full of some headlines. I would say this outdoes 07 and any of the following.
It's just a seemingly unprecedented, maybe not quality compared to back then, but quantity of young guns.
Yeah.
Big-time young guns. And a lot of those names you mentioned a second ago, and you throw in your Smoltz, your Glavine, your Maddox, your Sosa, your Clemens, they're at the end of their career. Like you just mentioned a second ago, I'll make the point again. End of the career, and now we live in a viral age, a social media age, and those young guns are so good for marketing this game. And old guys, the older generation, this is their game. Baseball, maybe more so than any other professional sport here in the United States. That's what they need to market to, is the younger guys. And I think having some of these younger guys be so good on social media on top of it, it's just helping the game so much.
I love all the young guys in baseball right now. Makes it intriguing to me. It's new, fresh blood. Anytime that happens in a sport, just like hockey, Eichel, McDavid, Matthews, it invigorates not only the current fan base, but I think it grabs guys like me that don't normally watch baseball, where I'm not going to sit down and watch every Yankee game, but we get Yankees up here, so I'm going to check them out, And if they're playing, the Marlins, not a great franchise, but I get to check out Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah.
So another young and up-and-coming guy that is fun to watch at the plate. There are so many great storylines, and there are a number of great achievements that are happening, not only with the Yankees, but out west with the Dodgers. It's a fun time in baseball right now, and this is a sport that's kind of been under siege to modernize.
Absolutely.
To come up with a modern game, and you haven't heard that talk this year. It hasn't been the discussion about, we need to speed up the game, we do this and that, because there's an entertaining product on the field. There are entertaining storylines that are being played out.
Yeah, and a few years ago when you had, he's not talked about as much of Manny Machado, and especially your Bryce Harper, your Mike Trout, I think that really started what we're seeing now. And I think more guys are coming up after a year, maybe not even that long, since they got drafted. They're coming up through the ranks, the top guys, maybe a little bit quicker. I think those young guns, it makes them more plentiful, and I think you have a trickle-down of success throughout the game.
Dodgers right now leading all of baseball with, 61-29 record?
Yes, and they've played one more game than number 2, who I think is a little bit better.
And the Astros?
Yes.
60-29, so they're right there, neck and neck. And the Astros just have a stranglehold on that division.
16.5.
It's crazy to see that. But that's one of the great storylines I would think of the first half, is just how dominant Houston has been in that division.
And after last year, where they weren't super, super far out of the wild card race, but they weren't as good as a couple years ago, and you had Sports Illustrated said 2017 World Series champs. Geez, they're looking pretty good in the clubhouse right now.
I mean, it's amazing to me that you can get a team that doesn't make the postseason, and the very next year,
they're not only good, but this
is dominant. 16.5 is flat out dominant. The rest of those teams just pack it up and figure something out for next year, because Houston's taken that division and they're headed to the postseason.
And the Rangers and Mariners, I mean, they've had plenty of success recently. This is wild that they're up 16.5 games on the couple teams right behind them in the standings.
All right, let's jump to the NBA. And a couple of talking points here. The major thing we want to try to determine quickly is, should we be interested in the NBA Summer League? Should we? I know you as a basketball guy should be, but tell me as an average viewer of an average consumer of basketball, why I should be concerned with the Summer League.
I think it goes hand in hand with the NBA D League, now called the NBA G League, which makes no sense because developmental league.
Another tangent.
Gatorade League. So
yes, I got you.
Because you're seeing that become so relevant now, it's really becoming like a AAA where every team has their own affiliate in the NBA there and with the G League. And I think the fact that, a couple years ago I saw a Twitter graphic that said a third of all players in the D League were on the rosters of NBA teams at the final game of the regular season. And a lot of these guys, especially even ones that were drafted that year before they get in the Summer League, that month before I should say, you're seeing them. These are guys that are going to be in the NBA, even though they might not start with that NBA team, that organization, that part of it, that high up.
See, but I would say, to counter that, and look at the other side of that coin, I guess, the top talent, so the Markelle Fultz, the Lonzo Balls, they're playing guys that are probably not even going to be on the roster and that would hope to be in the G League. So the talent isn't that great. They should stand out. So when Lonzo Ball goes 1 for 12 or 13 from 3?
1 of 11.
1 of 11,
2 of
sorry.
15 from the floor.
2 of 15 from the floor. In his first game, I get there's going to be some nerves, but it's still basketball, and you're playing against guys that aren't very good.
And that's a good point to make because most of these guys aren't even making it to the G League. I will say that, but just going back to Lonzo in that first game, I know a lot of people, they focus on the fact that he has an unorthodox shooting style from 3. And he was pretty good at that in college, but now it's a little bit further out. How is that going to go over to the pro game? But this was maybe him just being a little scatterbrained in his first game because
Nerves.
the shot selection was awful. He was taking crazy turnarounds when he shouldn't have in the corner and the coffin corner and stuff like that. That's not the shooting touch. That's not the shooting stroke, his specific one. That's just decision
Shot
making.
choice. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think you could chalk that up maybe a little bit to nerves. In the first one, you're putting the golden blue on, or the golden purple rather, for the first time, and this is where your father, this is where the prodigy is supposed to be, according to LeVar.
He was there.
So yeah, he rebounds nicely. Gets a triple-double in his second game, 11-11-11.
Make a wish.
So it's too many 11s, but all right.
Oh, jeez. They get 2 wishes then. No, you'd have to have 4 11s. Okay.
So he bounces back nicely. Now, I would argue that we're so intrigued by the Summer League this season because of these names, because of, unfortunately, LeVar Ball. It's unfortunate, but
It's
if
definitely unfortunate.
it wasn't for LeVar Ball, I really wouldn't care. And not that I want to see Lonzo fail, but I just want to see some reason for LeVar to be shut up. That's it.
Yes. I don't know if we're ever going to get it, though.
Unfortunately, we may not get it because the guy that was drafted 1 spot ahead of him, Markelle Fultz, the process, as I have here, strikes again. Fultz going down with a high ankle sprain or just an ankle sprain? Okay, so, I mean, that's not good. We saw Jack Eichel last year with a high ankle sprain, and he was out, what was that, a couple of months, I think?
Yeah, and you think sprain, it's not going to be that long, but we've seen now in professional sports for a few years now where that injury, the way it's being described, it takes you out longer than you would think. But it's too bad.
You don't want to come back too quickly.
Yes.
That's the key.
That's the thing, because it's going to be more severe. That next injury is going to be dreadful.
It lingers. It just lingers.
But Nerlens Noel, hurt. Joel Embiid, hurt. Ben Simmons, hurt. Markelle Fultz, hurt. It's too bad, because, geez, we're talking about viral teams in professional sports. That team is maybe the best one of that, and it's just keep dealing with this. You think they turn the corner at one of these points, but, geez, they need the personnel.
We talk about curses in professional sports, and mainly I guess it goes with baseball because it's such a superstitious sport. But the curse of the Billy Goat,
such
the
an
curse
old
of the
game.
babe,
Yeah.
Those curses. Is it fair to say there's a curse on the Sixers?
4 straight massive,
You'd have to, right?
massively high picks. Absolutely.
That's insane.
Ugh.
What is going? That should be one of the most.
I'm saying.
I don't know. Could you say exciting young teams?
Yeah, absolutely.
Exciting.
Both on and off the court.
I guess maybe let me drop the word young. Is that still one of the most exciting teams in the NBA?
I would say overall, because you have exciting young teams, so your Timberwolves, your Bucks, but this is just an added level. Jeez, what Embiid did in short minutes before he got hurt yet again.
Yeah. The social media presence, I think, helps build them up a little bit. It's so unfortunate. It really is. It drives me up a wall just how it's crazy just to see them year after year after year, these number 1 overall picks getting hurt, and they're going to the same team. It's all to the Sixers.
It's terrible. But the Sixers are probably the favorite second team of the most people in the country. Like, I'm a Celtics fan,
okay,
but they are probably the second one.
Yeah, I can see that. I would buy that.
Geez,
I would
the
buy that,
popularity
absolutely.
of that. Woo,
That's
Lord.
a good point. I would love to watch this group of 76ers play. If nothing else, because of the social media aspect, and you just want to see if these characters
When's it gonna happen?
play out on the court. But we may
knows?
never get it. Who knows?
Who knows when's going to happen? Jeez. Talking about, like, first fans, not that second level. I mean, Philadelphia is arguably the biggest and best basketball city in the world.
You would know.
Yeah.
You would know, sir. All right, bump music in. Around the corner, we bring in OG FOTS Toby Motyka, the original FOTS, if you will. Toby of 13 Wham out in Rochester is going to join us to talk about his first love, baseball. He certainly has the knowledge, has covered a number of guys that have made it to the bigs.
Yeah.
He's got his eye on some storylines. We'll talk to Toby next.
Benya TBD is here. I couldn't think of anything else.
This is what happens when you walk the dog late on a Sunday night, and you've got a little foo-foo dog that you're babysitting, and anyway.
Little line mate.
Something like that.
Little floofer.
All right, with that spectacular introduction, we will welcome in OG FOTS, the OG FOT.
The Og Fots.
The Og Fots. Toby Motyka, at Toby Motyka of 13 Wham Sports in Rochester. Now, Toby, there was a bit of a debate before this. We've had you on a couple of times here.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure I get the title correct. Is it sports anchor reporter, or is it weekend sports anchor reporter?
I go by sports anchor / reporter.
Okay, all right. Because, I mean, you do more than the weekends, but I wanted to make sure I get it in there.
Maybe I'm valuing myself. We'll see.
Now,
Never. That is not true.
Backslash or front slash?
It's a back.
Good.
It's important.
It's a classic.
It's important.
It's a classic.
Critical.
There's no semicolon, but all right.
Who needs those? The video version will be dropped much later on because, again, so far behind in the editing process because we're working on a special project, hopefully to be released next week. So the video version eventually is going to show Toby in this sweet Rochester Red Wings hat that was released on, what was it, the July 4th special?
Yeah. So you're catching me at the end of my vacation here. So you got the kids' toys and the sheer curtains behind you. But much more important, check out the stars and stripes on the inside.
Golly.
For July 4th. And the color scheme is just beautiful. It's got like that almost denim blue with the deep red. Love this thing. I haven't bought a fitted cap in probably over a decade. I had to go back and check what my size was before I got this, but I ran to get one of these.
It's a custom size.
It's like you have a sliced apple pie in your pie on top of your head.
It's a size extra large, which is just under tray bold if you go to the website.
A big old gourd.
I'm the complete opposite. I'm extra small. I need the children's size to fit my head.
It's like a tube sock on a hot dog if we were to put it.
That's a lot. And I love it. I would have it no other way.
And we'll leave it there. Thanks, Tobes. Golly. All right.
You bought me on.
I walked right into that. I know. It's all right. This is what happens. You get to the end of the vacation. You said the kids all day. And
yeah,
you got
it. You're my adult time.
I think there's quotes around adult there.
Yeah, correct.
Bad boy!
I've seen Lion King recently, though, Matt. So
Yes. Digitally remastered right now.
Over the airwaves of TBD.
That's cinema right there.
Oh, goodness. All right.
Thespian of the highest order.
He is. He definitely is. All right, Tobes, let's jump into some baseball talk here. Houston coming out of the first half of this MLB season with the best AL record at 60-29. The Dodgers got the best NL, and they did it on Sunday night. Let's focus on the Astros for this one. How much of the Astros improved this year, if you can quantify it, or how have they really done it after not making the postseason last year?
Well, it looked like they were a team that was going to go nowhere but up, right? 2 years ago, they were that young team that was built to rise. Then last year, they had a lot of guys who just dropped off. Two things, though. To me, the anchor of the rotation, Dallas Keuchel, very bad year last year. I believe he's unbeaten this year, if I'm not mistaken. His ERA is fuel. I know he's dealt with a couple nagging injuries, but that guy has been a lockdown ace. But it really comes down to their lineup. They had one guy over 300 last year, Jose Altuve, and then nobody else was above the 275 range. They got four guys hitting above the 300 clip this year, and a couple others around the 270s. So they rake it up and down. And when you have that anchor in the rotation, the stopper when things do start to go bad, they're a little bit of a mystery in modern day baseball just because the bullpen isn't as complete and total shutdown as you want it to be after about 6 innings. But it's versatile. It's been good enough. Everything else can carry them. I love that team. I don't see them going anywhere for a long time, and especially not this year. They're going to run away with that division. They already are.
I got him at 9-0, 1.67 ERA.
Yeah. Yeah,
Golly.
starting in the American League with those numbers. That's legit.
So those Astros, currently 16 and a half games up in their division. That division, not close. But what division race is the most interesting to you through 1.5?
I know we're going to get to one of the teams in this division in a little while, but I love the NL Central because how on earth are the Brewers leading a division with the Cubs, with the Cardinals, and yes, Matt, the Pirates? They are better than the Brewers are on paper. The Brewers early on in what should be a long rebuild, leading the division by 5.5 games at the All-Star break. That's miraculous for them. Yes. And they surged after they slumped. Everyone thought they were going to crash like the Reds did about a month and a half ago. They haven't. But that being said, the Cubs, we all know their talent level. The Cardinals, we all know their track record. And the Pirates piece it together here and there, even though they can't seem to sustain anything. I see the face. Yes, I see.
It's true.
Sneak.
That's facts.
It is very true. But one of those teams I have to think is going to catch the Brewers once the Brewers maybe realize, hey, we're not just playing the whole not supposed to be here, nothing to lose game anymore. Now we have something to lose. It's why I love baseball in the 162-game season. Usually the actual best team will win out as opposed to just a true Cinderella. If the Brewers are the best, they'll prove to be the best over the course of the second half, but the Cubs or Cardinals are going to be nipping at their heels, and maybe the Pirates.
Yeah, it's probably below those other two, unfortunately, but whatever.
Probably. Yeah.
Well, Brew Crew, what would we look up tonight? I mean, on Sunday, 8-2 in their last 10. So
yeah, like you said,
they've had a good run here.
It looks like that youth, and Eric Thames is essentially youthful because he wasn't playing the MLB recently. But it seemed like oh, okay, Brewers kind of falling back to earth, and then right before the break, boom shakalaka.
Well, they're putting it all together somehow. I still don't exactly know how they're benefiting from the fact that the rest of the division is below 500, but you can only play the teams that you're matched up with. The NL Central for years, as you know as a Pirates fan, has been arguably the best in all baseball. So here it's having a down year, and the Brewers are taking advantage.
Let's stay in the NL Central and move to the Cubbies, the South Side team. I mean, this team, to me, there's a ton of confidence around this group. Like, they're going to figure it out. They're going to figure it out. But we've been saying that for 80 games now. So how do the Cubs figure this thing out?
You just wait for guys who are supposed to be franchise players to become franchise players. You wait for the Bryants. You wait for what about Schwarber? Really? Like, what the heck has happened there? You wait for the rotation to pick it up. You wait. They just seem to find ways to lose on all sorts of different nights in all sorts of different ways. And a team that's managed by Joe Madden doesn't usually do that. And a team with the talent level of the Cubs doesn't usually do that. Maybe we underestimated the power of the Chicago Cubs curse. Maybe the Billy Goat is still alive after all. But
he's extremely hungover.
I know, seriously. Definitely had a big, long party. But let's be real here. Again, it is a long season. The Cubs very easily could reel off 8, 9, 10 in a row here. And all of a sudden, be right back in this thing. And we've forgotten all about the slow start. But right now, they've got a whole host of guys that need to step it up. And there really isn't any one that I can point to and say that's the key to the Cubs turnaround. Pretty much everyone on that squad seems to have been underperforming.
So strutting back to the AL now, Yankees. So Aaron Judge and Gary Sanchez playing in this week's All-Star game. The even newer Clint Frazier, Miguel Andujar, and Ji-Man Choi all had a huge week MLB debuts there. How far do you think this youth-infused Yankees squad can go this season?
Second or third place. Look, they've had these youthful guys just explode onto the scene, and they're still now 4 games above 500. They're 7-18 in their last 25. They don't have enough pitching, and even though these guys have been playing out of their gourds, there's just no way that they can keep it up because, again, baseball, it's all about history. It's all about track record. And everyone says that the hardest thing to do in professional sports is hit a Major League Baseball pitcher, right? Mm-hmm. All these young Yankees do twice as well when they reach the bigs as they did in AAA. Aaron Judge, career hitter in AAA, 250-something. He's hitting 330 this year. Gary Sanchez, I think I've got his stats pulled up here. Home runs in the minor leagues. You're looking at 3 seasons in AAA. He had 17 home runs in 109 games. In 111 MLB games, he has 33.
Wow.
So this is the type of thing that you look at it and you're just like, how does this keep happening? I mean, Clint Frazier, it's too early to say that he's overperforming, but he's overperforming. He was hitting 250 in the minor leagues with 12 home runs, and his OPS is like 1,100 in his first little bit in the bigs. So for whatever reason, guys are going up to the Yankees and just destroying the baseball. But I just don't think that can keep up over the course of 162 games. And even if it does, they're 4 games over 500. So to me, the Yankees are going to be a distant second to the Red Sox, if not third to a Tampa Bay team that seems to just be gutting things out from time to time. The Orioles are way worse than I think anyone thought they would be. So we can kind of forget about them for now. But to me, the Yankees are a second-place squad, and they'll probably finish the year around 500, 81, 85 wins, somewhere in there.
Interesting. Which team, good or bad, in your opinion, has been maybe the most surprising, I guess? We'll go with that. The most surprising team this first half.
Good or bad?
Good or bad, either way.
We can talk about the Orioles a little bit, especially because I believe they ended April as the best team in the American League, if not the absolute best. They were close. If you're talking about good, I would have said the Colorado Rockies, except they just hit a slump. So I'm going to say, personally, I'm actually going to roll with the Dodgers just because I thought their window had closed. I thought that they were kind of over and done with, yet here they are surging once again, and you knew about Clayton Kershaw at the top of the rotation. But the kid behind him, I can't remember the first name, but Wood, I think is his last name.
10-0.
Yeah, 10-0 behind Clayton Kershaw. So you have a guy who's 13-2 at the top of the rotation and an unbeaten guy behind him who wasn't even starting in the rotation. I think he's played in 15 games and has 13 starts. So you weren't even necessarily expecting him to contribute there this year. So the Dodgers, to me, not necessarily that they're good, but exactly how good they've been and how dominant they've been across the board in a division that has been relentless. 3 of the 4 best teams in the National League are in that division. So, and the NL MVP to me is in that division on a different team, which I know we'll talk about in a bit. So, to me, it's the Dodgers, most surprising. Again, not because they're good, but because they are so very good.
So which team, not that close to first place in their division, as of right now, after one half, has the best chance of making the postseason?
I'm going to go ahead and say, I mean, we just talked about the Central. I could say the Cubs or Cardinals because they're about 5.5 back. Mm-hmm. Diamondbacks right now would be the wild card. So even though they're 7.5 back, I don't want to say them. So if I'm going to say kind of the most distant out of it, give me the Kansas City Royals, just because they've been playing really well as of late, and it's been a very steady increase after an awful start. They're just a half game back of the Twins for second place. They're 3.5 back of the Cleveland Indians, who I think we all know are going to be just fine long-term out in the AL Central. But I really like the Royals. Again, similar to the Astros, we thought a couple years ago when they were World Series champs that they were going to go nowhere but up. And then they hit a little bit of a snag. I think they're recapturing that a little bit. And in a pretty weak American League Central, I like them to perhaps get in there as a wild card.
All right, Toby. You and I and Matt have all covered this next guy we're going to talk about, Miguel Sano. A bit of a...
I think I touched the cord.
A little bit of an audio blip there on Maddie's part. I don't know if that went over the record or not.
These childbearing hips.
Golly.
Impressive.
It's all right. That's all right. As I was saying, you and I and Matt have all covered Miguel Sano, who was in AAA last year, and did he make the All-Star roster this year?
Oh, yeah, he did.
I mean, what a story this guy has had. I mean, did you think last year at this time, and I guess the obvious answer is no, but that this guy would be in position to be an All-Star a year later?
Not a year later. 2 years ago, absolutely. He kind of exploded onto the scene for the Minnesota Twins, but then just completely tanked. Didn't look like he could play the field. The Twins tried to move him to the outfield. Then they tried him as a DH, and they brought in Byung-Ho Park. They mismanaged this guy terribly for about a year and a half. But he was still young enough and still just natural enough at the plate that he just mashes the ball. And if you watch him play in the big leagues, think about it even more so than an Aaron Judge, because Judge is just so tall and so massive. There's something different when the ball comes off Sano's bat. It sounds just pure. There's some kind of great, beautiful sound about it. And he's got 21 home runs, which is 4 less than he had all last year. His average is 40 points higher than it was last year, but a little bit higher than it was in 2015. So I think this is about where you can expect it to be. They have themselves a true franchise player in this guy, the Minnesota Twins do, for the first time since they had the Eminem boys, Maurer and Morneau, in the early portions of their career. I don't think this one's going to be worth a 10-year, $200 million contract. I hope the Twins never do that again. Let's say that out loud. But Sano is a real true talent who thankfully has not let any pop flies bounce off of his face this year.
Last year.
Oh man, that was a beaut. So James Beresford, I think it was, bailed him out on that.
Yes, good call. It was the Aussie on the spot.
Exactly. So I'm happy to see everything going well for him because as a Twins fan, I love to see it, but also because you hate to see good young players just get ruined early in their careers. So I'm happy to see that they've made the necessary adjustments and he's been able to overcome some real mismanagement last year and turn into a cornerstone for the Minnesota Twins.
All that fandom aside, that was real analysis from Toby.
It's beautiful.
Real analysis. All right, Tobes, one more before we get to the final five.
Sure.
We tried to determine, and I'm interested to hear your response to this question. I'm not a huge. I don't have the history of being a baseball guy, so I go year by year and follow it just on the outside more than I truly am an insider, so to speak, in like hockey, for example.
Right.
But to me, this first half of this baseball season seems to be maybe the most entertaining or intriguing first half in the past decade. Is that a fair statement, or has there been a better first half the past 10 years? We look back to 2007 and certainly all the names that pop off and all the Hall of Famers that were still playing at the tail end of their careers. But this just seems with the all the young talent, the battles that we're having, there's some separation and some, I guess, some teams that have separated themselves among the rest, like the Astros. But there's just so much. I think there's a ton of great storylines this year.
Yeah, and I think it all starts it starts at least with the New York Yankees and the fact that so much of the good young talent is running through them. Forget about Sosa and McGuire. People will say that dynasties aren't good and they don't like when teams dominate and whatnot. But sports become interesting when there's the big market villain or the big market hero that teams that people root for or cheer against. And right now, the New York Yankees look like they're becoming that again. And they have the best young player right now in all of baseball, and Aaron Judge, the way that he's hitting the ball. We talked about Gary Sanchez. You talked about the other young guys coming up. And it's driving people around the country nuts that the New York Yankees once again are kind of falling into this pot of gold of all this young talent and succeeding more than we all thought they would. And then you look around the rest of baseball, you have villains like Bryce Harper, individual guys who are just bad boys again. And even though baseball still, kind of like the NHL, just isn't great at marketing superstars, they just can't get out of their own way. For God's sakes, Mike Trout is a revolutionary player, and Major League Baseball has no idea what to do with him out on the West Coast. They're getting a little lucky in the fact that the great players are in the right places. So even though you're not having these great division races, it really doesn't look like there's going to be any great division races this year compared to years past. The wild card helps make things interesting all season long because there's the 2 spots now. And these players are just in the right spots to have the spotlight shown on them naturally. And I think it really does start with the New York Yankees and just the absolute mash hitting of Aaron Judge, who might hit 60 home runs in his rookie season.
Amazing.
All right, Steve mentioned a second ago the final 5. We're going to dip our toes. We're going to dip our toes in that right now. We're going to switch up the questions. You've had these before, but we went with a few more here. So which actor would play you in a movie?
Ooh, which actor would play me in a movie? Who's balding that's still famous?
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
Jason Statham, a young version.
Yeah.
Of Jason Statham.
Okay, all right.
He probably has good calves as well. Toby Motyka, very good calves.
He jumps off like 3-story buildings, doesn't he, in his transporter movies? So that requires great lower leg strength.
Yeah.
It has to, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Toby Motyka, 13 Wham Sports in Rochester. What is your secret talent?
Secret talent. I could 100% pretty much every song on Rock Band on the drums on Expert.
Really?
Nice.
Yep. Pretty much every
Very
song.
nice.
Yep. Iron Maiden, Run to the Hills, no problem. 100%. Got it all. I played drums growing up and through high school, but
okay.
I was unnaturally good at Rock Band. So that's probably my secret talent, which I'm sure all the ladies just loved about me. Those electronic drum kits.
Excellent.
It's like pheromones.
Alrighty. Best Halloween costume.
Knights of the Round Table from Monty Python in college. We had people behind us clicking the coconuts and all. We would just we just gallivanted around town and got into random duels and got kicked out of so many places. So that was my favorite Halloween costume. How about you?
That is spectacular. The coconut part is the best part of that whole story.
It was a perfect gallivant, perfect verb.
Hollowed out coconuts and just for miles, and we galloped for miles.
From unnaturally good at Rock Band to Knights of the Round Table. Those are just two great quotes for that. We get
Blap
we
blap.
have to flip a coin on what to name this show.
Blap blap.
All right, Toby, how do you take your coffee?
With just a little bit of milk, no sugar.
Okay, all right.
You're already sweet enough. Alrighty. Where can we find you on the internet?
At Toby Motyka, TOBYMOTYKA on Twitter, Facebook, same thing. Just there's a space there, and you don't need the @ symbol. So that's how to track me down.
Excellent. Toby Motyka, 13 Wham Sports in Rochester, sports anchor reporter extraordinaire, the original, the OG FOTS.
Hit him with the backslash.
Got to do it. Toby, thanks for the time, brother.
Anytime, fellas. Happy to do it.
All right, let me get... No, that's not the right music. I did it again.
It is now, though.
Ah, golly. I hit reporter stuff like I'm introing him. Toby, it's been a long day. I've been up since 4:30. There's the bump music. There we go. Goodness. I'm telling you, this is just...
Oh, me, oh, my.
B block. I can't get out of my own way. All right, around the corner, we're talking Sabres Development Camp. The number this week, 48, for a former USC star. And Maddie witnessed an interesting moment for Get Off My Lawn involving a Jeep and Mother Nature. Stick and stay. TBD rolling on.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da. La, la, la. TBD, TBD, we's back. Went to Michael McDonald at the end.
Wow, all right. You can find the show at TBD_show on Twitter, To Be Determined Show on Instagram. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/ToBeDeterminedPod. You can email the show, tbdmailman@gmail.com.
Like Karl Malone.
He's at Trabs Matt. I'm at Sports by Bond.
He's at Sports by Bond.
He's at Trabs Matt. Thought I'd play along there.
I like it.
As I mentioned, did we mention this yet? We did mention this in the last segment with Toby. I'm brain dead. That's from the A block. Working on a major project. My goal is to have it announced on the 20th episode. So that would be next episode.
Mejor proyecto.
We'll get that going. But we dive into some segments. B-side story, Sabres developmental camp going on. A bunch of the rookies, young guys getting together in Buffalo at the Harbor Center under new Amherst head coach Chris Taylor, the former assistant coming back and coaching the boys now, taking that bench boss job. The question here is, how relevant is Sabres developmental camp? How relevant is developmental camp?
In this sport, I would say it's here and there because, like we mentioned with the NHL draft a couple weeks ago, these are guys, maybe not as much as other sports when they get drafted, that aren't quite ready. They're not quite older for even the AHL, especially not the NHL, unless you're one of the top two picks. So, I mean, these guys, they're going to see them here. Harbor Center is where the Sabres one is, but who knows when the next time? It's a couple years before maybe even the AHL they're seeing these guys again.
It's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
For Casey Middlestat, it's a no-lose situation.
A Casey by Casey basis?
Well, if you're Middlestat, you know you're going back and you're going to play juniors. You're going to play USHL.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. He's going to off to Minnesota. I'm sorry.
Minnesota.
He's heading off to Minnesota. So we know he's going to college. He's got at least 2 years, I would think, before we sniff him again. He'll come back for developmental camps, and that'll be the next time. We'll see him again this time next year, basically. For a guy like Justin Bailey, this is crucial.
Really his last chance.
This is, if you want to set yourself up on a good note going into training camp, and if the coaching staff, if you can stand out here amongst your peers, they're going to look more favorably on you as you get into training camp. Then you really have to make that impression. So obviously, you do well here, you got to do well there. But this is the first step. If you don't even do well here, you're right back to the Always Hungry League.
And with Justin Bailey and Nick Baptiste, a couple guys I cover a lot, working in Rochester there with the Americans. But Justin Bailey, I heard that he put on a bunch of weight for this developmental camp. He's up to 215. And I did a story where I mic'd him up and went around in a limo with him and Nick Baptiste, and they were giving out tickets before the season started. He was pretty broad back then. He's got to be a tank right now.
Well, and he needs to be. He's a big guy, and he got brushed off the puck. And this is what he admitted in a recent interview, I think, with the Buffalo News.
That's big of him. I mean,
that, maybe it wasn't the Buffalo News. I can't remember where I saw it now.
I think it's a recent interview.
It was a recent interview. That's the way to do it. Well covered, sir. Anyway, Bailey was saying that he would get bumped off the puck. And a guy that's that big and that fast can't have that happen. Speed is his game right now. And he's got that NHL-type speed. But like Louis Mendoza, he's just got to be able to control it. It's a matter of controlling that speed.
Lasso that speed, like the I don't have the kid's name, but like the Western kid.
Yes, I know who you're talking about. God, I can't remember.
Buck McRogers.
That's not it at all.
I don't think it was Irish. So,
no, I don't believe it was. Maybe the most impressive guy of this camp is Brendan Gooley, but I think there's a lot of people. I wouldn't even say penciled. I think a lot of people had him penned in to the top 6 to dressing, I guess, for the Sabres. On that defensive core. I don't know that he'd be a top 4 guy, but he's going to dress, and he's a guy that the Sabres may rely on to go 82 this year, and he's another guy that bulked up in the offseason.
Oh my gosh, it's such a difference seeing him in his draft cap on draft day there, and then what he's been showing here in developmental camp this weekend. So much bulk put on, and not just pads. You can really see it even just in his face. But, I mean, Brendan Gooley, I remember at the Phil Housley introductory press conference, he kept talking about Brendan Gooley.
Yeah.
This younger kid, when it came to defensemen, and kind of surprised by that. Bigger names, more established names. He kept talking about Brendan.
Second-round pick. I mean, he's a guy that came out in 2015 was his draft class, and we all know 2015 was the draft of Jack. And so I think you forget a lot of the other pieces, but Murray did a nice job. GMTM did a nice job of grabbing Gooley in the second round there. That's a good draft pick and a guy that, okay, 2 years later, now he's ready to contribute. That's a pretty standard. That's pretty standard fare. I mean, you look at Casey Middlestat, the 8th overall pick, is probably going to go down that similar path. Alex Nylander, the 2 years ago now, the 8th overall pick. It's a big camp for him as well. He's got to prove that he can play at this level, that he's not just the hands, that he can go in the corners, he can do the dirty work, and that he has the top end skill as well.
I remember me and Alex Nylander had a little bit of a moment last developmental camp.
Okay.
So I think he definitely on the ice needs to do a little bit more this time around, because really the only takeaway I have from last one is that he didn't know much about Rochester, even though he lived a little bit there.
Yeah.
So just kind of pulling this all together, this upstate New York Jazz. But you mentioned Minnesota with Casey Middlestat.
Yep.
Hudson Fasching, another big name. Hey, I like to talk my Big Ten hockey. And like just Big Ten in general. I guess I added Notre Dame, but yeah, hey, go Gophers.
Go Gophers.
Completely irrelevant with what we're talking about, but go Gophers.
Okay, on that note, we go to buy the numbers. The number this week is 48, as in the age of former NFL quarterback Todd Marinovich. Why do we care about the former first-round flop? Well, 16 years after he last played for the LA Avengers in the AFL.
That staple.
Marinovich is attempting a comeback in the World Developmental Football League at, yes, the age of 48. The announcement coming less than a year after Marinovich was arrested with drugs, and I have while period here, which is a complete mistake, but while he was completely naked is what I forgot to add there. I think I was censoring myself.
Is it buck or butt naked? I think it was both from details of the story I saw.
I think it's both. Now that's a great debate. Buck or butt naked?
I think it's both.
Maybe a question. We won't do that for the FOTS. Never mind. That's a bad idea. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a little fraudulent for that.
The interesting part of this story is not only is he 48 and had relapsed, I think he had methamphetamines and I can't remember what else he was caught with last year at this time.
No, sure.
But it was obviously serious stuff. The kid he's going to be competing against is 25 years old, so nearly half his age. And Marinovich said he's just excited to get out there to try to compete for the starting role, which I think is interesting. This WDEF DFL consists of, just so you have a little more information on it, consists of 16 teams on the East and West Coasts, as well as 4 teams in South Africa.
I wonder how that works because, yes, they're big in rugby and Aussie rules football, but this is American football. And I remember when I first saw it, and I was talking to you about it, when it said world is in the acronym. I remember making fun of it. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, world. Okay.
Right. They're trying to make it seem bigger than it actually is, but it turns out it is a world league, technically.
Make it even weirder, he used to be an assistant. I don't know if he's being a player coach now, but he used to be assistant last year. I wonder if this kid was on the team. But yeah, this kid, I think his name is Jacob Russell. I mean, he's probably the best Kentucky quarterback and young and recent star in college since, was it Pillsbury Throwboy?
Yeah,
Jared
you're
Lorenzen,
right.
another
you're right.
crazy, just random league, a random American league for football.
The depth of knowledge there, Matty. Well done.
I love Jared Lorenzen.
I want to isolate just that soundbite right there.
I love him.
We may have a new addition to the Open. So the number this week, 48. What do you make of Marinovich trying to make the comeback? It's such an old age, and we looked it up. He played 2 seasons before being cut by the Raiders in his 3rd year. I give him credit because you want to see a guy follow whatever it is. You want to see somebody follow their passion. If this is his passion, if this is his thing, then go for it. But listen, Father Time's undefeated, and even if this league is a bit of a joke, you're still 48 trying to play football. That's not an easy task.
As someone on the positive end of a rehab stint, and not talking about the DL or something in a professional sports league, I like the fact that this doesn't seem like a publicity stunt because it seems like his mind is right now. So, hey, all the power to him. I hope for the best for him, even if he doesn't get this job.
No, that's a good point. That's a very good point. All right, the number this week, 48. Let's go to Get Off My Lawn. And, Maddie, this is your time to shine. Normally, I take control of this because I'm a very grumpy person, but I'm only grumpy because I've been up, if I haven't mentioned it, 12 times. This will be the 13th. I've been up since 4:30 on Sunday morning, so I'm exhausted. So I couldn't think of a good enough Get Off My Lawn, but just like a good co-host does, you jump in the clutch and you say, listen, I got one for you.
So, scenario. So I'm driving here today. I'm on 390 there in Rochester, New York.
Saturday you were driving.
Saturday. Very true.
Thanks for helping me out. Sunday. It was beautiful Sunday.
Yeah, thanks for helping me with my own story, which I just completely forgot about for a second. So I'm driving by this car, and it's one of these Jeeps, and I don't think it was ready for the weather.
Jeep Wrangler. It was a Jeep Wrangler.
Jeep Wrangler, so that's the one.
Yes.
So no doors, no top, nowhere to be found. And
completely naked Jeep.
So it's a mother-son duo, and she's dressed very nice. It looks like they're maybe going to a graduation or something a little bit formal.
Who's behind the wheel?
It is the son.
Okay.
This is definitely his
son.
Jeep.
Okay, all right.
This is definitely a choice of the son. Because the mother already didn't look very happy to be in this, because she's got nice hair at the moment, and then the rains come. And as you know, as plenty of people that are listening know, this is a historically, maybe the most so, historically rainy summer
for
in
upstate New York. Yeah.
And it came hard. These are big droplets, and this woman was tweaking. And the son at a certain point was freaking out, kind of console his mom to a certain degree. But then you could see it in his eyes. It switched over like, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
It's not like it appear out of nowhere, the top and the doors to this. So we're going to have to go through it. And it was hilarious. And to get off my lawn, I assume this woman was saying, maybe not just my son's car, but cars in general should never come without those two things, doors and a top.
Well, listen, being a former Jeep owner, a former Jeep Wrangler owner, I can attest to how fun
the wind in
driving, the wind in the hair, you take the doors off. It's a cool...
It's anarchy.
It's very fun. It's very fun. It's probably not the safest thing in the world, because if you get sideswiped, there's nothing there.
Oh, geez, yeah.
But...
It's like a motorcycle, though, so...
Yeah, not quite as bad as that, but yeah, similar, very similar. It's fun. It's a great summertime thing to do, except for this summer when it could rain at any moment.
Last summer...
It's almost like Florida here. That's the best way to describe it, because on Saturday I went to the expo, the Boilermaker Expo, to pick up my packet and my bib and all that stuff for the race, and we got caught in on and off rain. So I can attest to what this mother-son duo went through, because I went through the same thing out in the expo. We went in and it was pouring. We came out of the expo and it was gorgeous.
It was hilarious. I wish I could have memed it up because he was just looking forward, just emotionless, like, this is my life now, at least for the next little bit. And she's like,
So the mom is the get off my lawn moment.
oh, yeah,
then. Okay.
absolutely.
All right. For that son.
I feel-
Not even for you, just for the son in
I
general.
feel bad for him.
This is for some
I
random...
feel bad for her.
Some random dude for him.
It's Dude McRandom.
All right, there we go. Let's go to Twitter takes. Not a specific Twitter take for this week, but then again, there were 3
smorgasbord.
spectacular tweets from the Rochester Red Wings account. Shout out to the guys at the Rochester Red Wings.
Nate Rowan, Tim Duan.
There you go. Very
Blap,
good.
blap.
Very good. First, the first announcement last week was that the Red Wings are going to do a special promotion with Nick Tahos to celebrate 100 years of Nick Tahos. Of course, the infamous garbage plate. They're going to be called the Rochester Plates for a game later on in August. So they pump out the gear, and it even made, I think, some national headlines, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so Cut 4, which I think is the MLB.com blog.
Okay.
Some other ones, too. Maybe a Deadspin, maybe a Sports Illustrated. I don't know exactly.
Yep.
But definitely a few national outlets tweeting it out.
Very cool stuff. I love the gear. If you haven't had a garbage plate, get yourself out to Rochester, get a garbage plate.
Do it.
The second was an in-game promo that the Red Wings did where they dressed up actual people as hippos and played Hungry, Hungry Hippos with what I'm only assuming is like those Chuck E. Cheese balls from the ball pit.
I was actually about to say the
Okay.
same establishment.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Chuck E. Cheese balls in the middle. Gave them like plastic bins. They're on
Yeah.
scooters. They're
on
like
little,
wheelbarrowing people. They had other people behind them at their ankles, kind of just scooping them in and out.
going back and forth, back and forth. Made for a great little piece of Twitter. And it's only like an 8-7 second, whatever the heck it is, video. But find it. It's on their account. It is hysterical. You'll find yourself watching this over and over again because it is that funny. Then, the piece de resistance, the icing on the cake, came at the very end of the week. And no doubt you saw this. The Twins signing Bartolo Colon to a minor league deal, which, of course, puts Bart in Rochester. Now, the Red Wings immediately capitalizing on this situation, and kudos to them for doing this. The power of Photoshop in full effect here. Bart was inked in the new Rochester Plates gear, bringing this week on social media full circle.
Big sex at his finest, especially at this point in his career. But this one was on SportsCenter. Not the Twitter account, maybe on top of that, but we're talking about the screen. We're talking about the small screen. He was on there. They were on there, that Twitter account, that tweet. Whoo, baby.
Amazing. What a great week in Twitter. Those guys, Tim Duhan, Nate Rowan, do
They
a
do
tremendous job with their social
good
media
job.
and whatnot. And it was very well done this week. Very creative. They certainly had the materials, but listen, just because you have good material doesn't mean you're going to knock it out of the park. They had the great stuff, and they hit it out of the park anyway. So kudos to the guys at the Rochester Red Wings. All right, quick word about $10 Tea Club. Guys, if you haven't done this yet, please do yourself a favor. Not a typical ad read here. This is more of a testimonial type thing. Head over to $10teaclub.com. Pick out a couple of T-shirts. Get a big first order. Then put in promo code TBD. Save yourself 15%. I can't say enough about these products. Go on, check it out for yourself. Even if you only get the one T-shirt, just to try it out. It's $10.
Why not?
You can wear it anywhere. At the gym, you can wear it out. Some guys wear it to the office depending on where they work and what they do. Great products. They're great friends of ours. I can't say enough about them. Make sure you head over to $10 Tea Club, and when you do that, use that promo code TBD. Save yourself 15%. All right, I'm going to get the correct bump music this time as opposed to the B block. There it is. All right, around the corner, Sin City, center stage, obviously, for the UFC this week. But
absolutely,
all the headlines came out of the octagon. We're going to have a live correspondent on the scene from UFC 213 next. TBD rolling on.
Hey, now, I'm going to throw some acronyms at you. TBD, UFC, Yippee. Take a listen to you and me.
Were all those acronyms?
The second half was not acronyms, not even close.
All right, I just
acronyms,
want to catch up. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, I guess acronyms can technically be two. That's plural, but I thought I was going to come up with more on the fly.
I didn't know if you had something saucier planned, but no, I like that. I like the I don't know if the second half meant something, I guess is what I'm trying to
You
say.
don't want to overpower the entree sometimes.
I see.
So-
Okay. All right. Not enough sauce.
That's just
too much
words
sauce
falling
is a
out of my
bad thing.
mouth. Just falling out of my mouth.
All right. As you mentioned, we're going to talk some UFC on TBD. This week's Bro Tip, focusing on the UFC. And the Bro Tip is literal this week because we're going to bring on my brother at Sports by Bro, Jonathan Bond. But before we do that, in just a second here, we're going to talk a little bit about UFC 213. And as I have written down here, quite eventful for things that happened outside of the cage. So Maddie's going to sneeze. I'm going to continue to talk here. Amanda Nunes dropping out of the fight at the last possible second. Really, whoa, aggressive.
That started so early.
You paused from
The
that.
process started way. I'm like, oh, I'm good.
I wanted to get your reaction to the events happening outside of the cage, and that one built up. Kudos. So yes, Nunes dropping out hours before the event, saying that she has chronic sinusitis.
Not what I just showed.
No,
That's
well,
not that.
you may have it
That's
too
just
after
a
that.
sneeze. Just a sneeze. Oh,
You may have it too, buddy. We may have to get you
Oh, boy.
a CT scan. Nunes had a CT scan and found that there was a buildup, and then had an expert flown in and a prescription for an antibiotic, the whole 9 yards. So Dana White really basically ripped her apart, saying he thought it was 90% mental, 10% physical, and then going further and saying that Nunes won't ever see another main event despite holding on to that belt.
and yes, I know he's mad, but she does hold the belt. But I was very surprised. So she said on Twitter, in order to help her out in the public light, that they only checked for blood, and I assume in terms of PEDs, and dehydration when
Sure.
they medically cleared her. CT scan in a combat sport where there's blows to the head seems like a pretty big deal.
Well, in a sport where you're training and they're still taking blows in training, so it could be useful. So that's the larger debate: is what type of scan do you need? But this this ticket, I mean, what a disappointment. The two main guys drop out for injuries. What was it, a couple of days ago, weeks ago, whatever it was?
Yeah, it was a little bit earlier on.
Earlier
than what
on.
happened, obviously, with Nunes.
Nunes gets bumped up to the main event and then drops out.
It's wild. It's wild. And you got to feel for Dana White to a certain degree because he's a businessman. He's Mr. Marketer, and it's tough. It's tough to try to scramble with a few hours because you got to give it to Whitaker. He ends up winning. He's the first ever UFC champ out of Australia. But that fight, the main event gets 2 more rounds. So that fight wasn't supposed to be 5. It was supposed to be 3.
Yeah.
So you got to ask these guys, were your preparations good enough to go 5?
Yeah, to go that much longer.
Possibly. Yeah.
What would the math be on that? A quick math in my head would be what? Almost
2 more rounds?
40% more? You're going 40% more?
Oh, I was like, it's 2 more rounds. Now I understand.
I was thinking percentages, sorry. Again, Boilermaker, my brain is drained at this point. I don't have enough fluids in my head right now to make this happen.
Hit him with the 4-0.
Lucky enough for TBD, we're fortunate enough, I guess, on this show. Our reach is phenomenal. We've got downloads all over the globe, and we now have a correspondent in Las Vegas, but only for the meantime. One Jonathan Bond, if the last name sounds familiar, it's because he's my younger brother, at Sports by Bro. I just made the Twitter handle up. Jonathan, JB, what's going on, kid?
Nothing much.
Are you enjoying Vegas?
Yeah, it's really cool out here.
So Jonathan and my dad at Sports by Pops. Again,
I like that.
Made up, but we'll roll with it.
At Sports by Pappy or
Pappy,
something?
no, not Pappy, not Pappy. Are huge UFC fans. Johnny knows more about the UFC than I'll ever hope to know.
It's a beautiful thing.
Huge fight guy.
That's true.
As it is right there. Matt, obviously a huge UFC guy. So UFC 213, and as we're just discussing, the 2 main events of this fight, of this card, drop out. Nunes dropping out suddenly at the last minute. JB, where were you, And what was your reaction to the news when you heard this? Because this is one of the reasons you guys flew out to Vegas was to see this fight.
Mm-hmm. Well, we originally flew out to see Cody Garbrandt defend his title against TJ Dillashaw, but then that fight got canceled, and now the Nunes fight was on, and I was in the hotel room when the Nunes fight got canceled, and I was just really in shock because it was literally hours before the fight, and no fighter has really ever dropped out of a fight hours before.
Yes, so suddenly. It's why it's so shocking. I mean, UFC's been doing 213 of these now. They just don't have this happen. And when you think of MMA, to me, I think it's some of the toughest athletes in the world.
Yeah.
So it really was kind of disappointing, I think, for everyone there. What were the crowds like at this fight? You were, what was it? Is it T-Mobile, the T-Mobile Arena out there?
Yeah.
What were the crowds? What was the atmosphere like, especially after the fact when Nunes dropped out?
Well, at UFC 213, the crowds were significantly smaller because the main event got canceled. And the fight card before was just a regular fight night, not on pay-per-view.
Okay.
And the crowd for that was actually bigger than the crowd for the pay-per-view fights.
No kidding.
That's very interesting.
That probably hasn't happened before. We can't confirm that, but I would imagine that doesn't happen too many times.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But there were other entertainments there around Vegas and whatnot for him. So,
And speaking of that, so a little birdie tells me you got to meet renowned UFC ring girl Red De La Cruz. How was that experience?
Awesome.
JB, are you now in love?
Oh, I was before this.
Just even more so. To our understanding now, to our sources close to the situation, not only did you get a chance to meet her and get a picture, but did you see her later on?
No, actually. I
No,
saw
okay,
her
so
before.
My source is wrong then.
Hey.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, anyways, so you got to meet a ring girl, and she's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah, I met several.
Several ring girls.
okay.
Who was your favorite?
Brittany Palmer.
Oh,
She's a big one.
okay.
She's a big one.
And did you get to meet her on this trip?
Yes.
Okay.
Very nice.
Autograph or what?
Autograph and picture.
And
Nice.
kiss?
Unfortunately, no.
Well, that's too bad. That is too bad. As I said, JB at Sports by Bro, biggest UFC kid I know. So this is going to be the broad question where he's going to show you his depth of knowledge. JB, what was there were two different fight cards in Vegas. What was the best fight, or what were the best fights you saw?
I would have to say, by far, Michael Johnson versus Justin Gaethje was the best fight.
What made it the best fight? Why is that?
Lots of back and forth action. Gaethje was really hurt in the first round, and he looked like he was out on his feet. And then he came back to actually knock out Johnson in the second round. He proceeded to land a crazy flying knee against the cage, and then he held him against the cage and landed some knees to the head that ultimately put Johnson down and won in the fight.
Very nice. Did those guys have anything crazy to say afterwards?
Not as crazy as you would have expected.
That's good. They got to be humble. Some of them have to be humble.
Yeah.
You didn't learn any colorful language on the trip to Vegas?
Oh, no, I definitely did. Some of the fans were yeah.
Unruly?
You know the rest.
We can leave it at that, I guess. All right, so JB is going to be a senior out in Baldwinsville. So perfect timing, a perfect Vegas trip, I guess. I have never been to Vegas.
Same.
I've never been out that way. So, JB, you got something up on your older brother. Give me the skinny. What is Vegas like? What's been your favorite part, maybe outside of UFC?
We didn't really do anything outside of the UFC stuff.
Okay, good. That's good then.
Yeah. Well, all I can say is, if I can sum up Vegas in one word, it would be slot machines.
Slot machines.
They're everywhere.
Really?
Huh.
In the airports, in the hotels, in the bathrooms.
The bathrooms. Is that the most unexpected place you saw a slot machine was in the bathroom?
Yes.
Every stall. No, I'm just kidding. I bet it's not that crazy. Every stall. That'd be wild.
I mean,
There are slots like at the restaurants, and you can like gamble while you're waiting for your food.
of course. There's always got to be a way to get a buck.
Hey.
Always got to be a way to get a buck. Has Dad laid any shekels down?
Nope.
Not a shekel. Wow. Okay.
Well, it's not a form of currency, so.
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Couple of pennies. That's all. Are you gonna try to hit like a roulette table before you go or anything like that? Not you, but Dad. I mean.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right.
All the chips on red. All the chips on red. Is that one of them? Is that one of the choices? I don't know.
Roulette. Yes. At Trab's Matt, clearly a avid gambler.
I'm just not good with cards, so I don't usually do much of that at all. Slot machines, though, those are easy.
You can do the slots.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right. One at Sports by Bro, Jonathan Bond, our new UFC, breaking him in, our new UFC correspondent, a new FOTS of the show. JB, thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy
Thanks,
the
man.
rest of your time there. All right. Stay out of trouble, for goodness sakes. Come home in one piece. Otherwise,
I'll try.
Dad'll never live it down, I'm telling you. All right, JB, enjoy yourself. Safe travels back, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, time for It's Got Legs, a story that's going to continue to make headlines throughout the weeks, days, whatever might be months upcoming. Boeheim's Army advancing to the Super 16 in, well, this is just such a bad name, the basketball tournament. The TBT is what they call it. But
That's why they go by the acronym more.
Basketball tournament is just a horrendous name. Cuse beating Gale Nation 106-100. Do we know who's on Gale Nation?
Gale Nation is the alumni of Iona College.
Oh, okay. All right.
Gales just want to have fun.
There we go. So Iona's out. Cuse is staying alive. Or Boeheim's Army, whatever you want to call him.
It's funny because Joe Lenardi and some other people are calling these games on ESPN3. Instead of saying the full thing, Boeheim's Army, they just keep calling them Syracuse. It's like they're playing in the actual college season. It's awesome.
Well, it's all Syracuse players.
Yeah.
They're coached by a former Syracuse player, Ryan Blackwell, who's the head coach at Liverpool High School, former Pittsburgh Sutherland graduate. So, yeah.
Cha-ching.
There it is. Cuse has, they got to play the winner of what? Team Fancy and Supernova.
So Team Fancy is just anarchy. There's no one college. These guys came from one program. Supernova, though, Villanova. Ooh. Former Big East foes.
I kind of hope it's Supernova.
Absolutely. And the game's on ESPN2. Everyone can watch. You might as well, right?
Are these games competitive? For someone who's never watched like me, are these competitive basketball games? Are these worth the time in the summer to check out?
I would say absolutely, because especially if you watch college basketball like at all, and you have that nostalgia for it, especially like I do, you're going to recognize a lot of these names. A lot of them are former NBA guys, so it's a lot of name recognition. Early on, the games aren't great. They played some team out of Du Bois. Last time out, Boeheim's Army did, and I think they won by 33 points or something like that. I think it's Du Bois' dream. Isn't that just dreamy? So, but later on, you're going to have very good competition.
Competitive teams.
Geez, if this game on ESPN2 is Villanova versus Syracuse, I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would definitely be fun. All right, let's go to anything else on the TBT before I get to the thank yous?
Eric Devendorf was chirping some dude in the game today, and it was a lot. It was a lot.
He is emotional.
He's a coach now. Simmer down.
He is a coach now. That is true.
End of the bench. End of the bench for Jimmy.
Yeah.
Very end. He's wearing a suit, though, instead of a jersey, so.
Yeah, I got nothing on. That's it. That's all we got. All right, let's go to the thank you portion of the show. We thank the OG FOTS, Toby Motyka. We have brought Toby on to talk about so many different topics.
3 different things, I think.
What has it been? Bills,
MLB first half, and...
What was the other one?
That was the easy one because we did that today.
I know. Was it hockey? We didn't talk hockey with Toby. Now we have to go back and check that. I don't know. Either way.
Sports. We talked about sports.
Sports. That was we talked about sports.
That's a trifecta right there.
That's true. That is true. Good save, Sarah. All right, so our thanks to at Toby Motyka from 13wham.com or 13wham, and it's what 13wham.com is the website.
I think so.
I don't know why I'm giving
probably
the
should know
website
that.
out, but
I do know that.
Okay, you do know that. As an employee, you should know that.
Oh boy.
Our thanks to the new UFC correspondent for TBD at Sports by Bro, my brother, Jonathan Bond, did a great job.
Awesome.
Working out in
City of Sin.
the City of Sin. And I wanted to give his Instagram. It's at jbond__2 2 underscores 007. Of course, very fitting for JB.
John
Bond. As our last name is Bond. So check him out on Instagram. Give him a follow. Our thanks to the guys at $10 Tea Club. Make sure you check out the show on iTunes, Google Play every Monday. Rate, review us, if you would.
Do it, you won't.
That would be great.
Wait, definitely do it.
I don't know
though.
if you challenge him, but you challenge him.
Yeah.
Check out the post-game press conference every Wednesday on YouTube. Check out the Friday show on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. You can see the video version on YouTube. Let's see. Check us out on Twitter, at TBD_show. On Instagram, To Be Determined Show. On Facebook, facebook.com/ToBeDeterminedPod. Email the show. Drop us an email. We'll read it over the air. We'll do it.
Absolutely.
We will absolutely do it. tbdmailman@gmail.com.
Hey, do you know this Nigerian prince wants a bunch of money from you?
Not that kind of email. My thanks to you, Manny, for showing up. I hope we determined something on the 19th episode of To Be Determined. Later, boys.